So, hello, y'all. Hello, everyone. Welcome to chapter 25 of the ICERS papers, Dr.Frances Cress Welsing. This chapter is titled The White Supremacy System, the White Supremacy Mindset, and the AIDS Holocaust. 1988, it was written, I believe, this essay. And so before we jump into the book, I would like to know how does make you feel? Some of your summarizing thoughts, and like what's going on in your head at the moment in regards to chapter 25. I just want to start by saying it's white supremacy in a nutshell, which is total destruction in a very very methodical, structured way. Being able to carry out the death of millions, and I'm quoting the Jewish Holocaust, but in the same way that the white supremacists were able to spread AIDS to 5 million Africans, and their use of biological weapons, just the many ways the white people, those who have classified themselves as white, are able to kill, and the many faces of death that they're able to bear. So chapter 25 was, to me, I guess a final nail in the coffin that this is a serious problem, and like the white supremacy mindset is the organizer of the destruction. It's the organizer of the system, and it's the mindset of the fear of genetic annihilation. That fear is what quote unquote gives men wings, and in this case, gives white men wings and gives white men the creativity and the audacity to, you know, live and engineer a society where black is at the bottom and black is the walking, living, breathing sacrifice, to all peoples, not just white people, to all peoples.
Well said. This chapter, like the entire book, is very alarming. This is a very very important chapter because she poses the questions like no she poses many questions, but she shows us that the white supremacists, the white people, or the racist suspects, they have created like there's no question if they have created biological weapons, weapons of mass destruction. There's no question if they've created this weapon. The question is, will they deploy these weapons, and if so, on who? So this chapter shows us that they do deploy these weapons, experiment with these weapons, and the target is black people. It's necessary for them to create weapons of mass destruction and then to deploy these weapons on black people in order for them to remain the status quo, so to say. So yeah, very alarming. Disease warfare, germ warfare, um, all stuff that I doubt very few black people think about, but something that the white supremacists are thinking about consistently, as the evidence will show, does show.
Yeah, I really, but first of all, thank you for that, Sora, for the articulation. I really enjoyed reading this chapter because biological warfare is something that has been very on my radar for a while. People before there was counting it as conspiracy theory. I was refusing the flu vaccination because I didn't see the logic of putting something, a weaker version of an illness in me. I just didn't think that made sense to be at all. I grew up in a time where I constantly saw like my grandma going for health checks and then her blood being like 6 vials of her blood being taken, and me understanding like African heritage and like DNA. I always used to think, why did they need my grandma's blood so much? But I probably, God, you never know. Testing it against, does it work on this? Would this work on them? Like, I don't know what experiments our vials of blood are used for, but it's definitely not just solely for the purpose of checking out our health. I know that much. And this chapter is more like, with all of Dr. Frances Cress Welsing's work, is almost like a validation for like our mental state of the fears that we've been experiencing. Like if you wasn't too worried about biological warfare, you'd easily say, no, that's a conspiracy theory. My country or my people or me going to the hospital would never work in my illness. It's for my it's for my favor. As long as I give money, they're gonna make me healthy. They wouldn't do anything to kill me. And then there's Tuskegee syphilis. There's the Tuskegee syphilis experiments done onto the black men, and she details that here perfectly. So one of the most powerful things about this chapter is the fact that she has taken a direct stab at the at scientific racism, biological warfare, taking a direct stab at the different levels of how white supremacy aims to genocide black and brown people.
I would have never thought of those things. Then I just keep adding to my arsenal of that information. Love being in this group with you, smart people. Well, I found out that I'm not American reading this chapter. That I'm the same as the Jew was in German. Don't consider us American. And I'm glad to know it. Fuck them, excuse my language. I'm glad to know it. I'm glad to know it. You know, I knew that already. In fact, I was arguing with a guy at work one time about, us not, having any concern or love or knowledge of our culture and our history. And he said that he was American, a brother, right? He said he was American. I said, American? And I really didn't have as much as I would have now, right, for him. And I just really appreciate this deeper insight that I got from the psyche of Hitler and the Nazi movement. I had no idea that the word gypsy was a derivative from Egypt. Makes total sense. I heard it over the years in abstract ways that the reason I didn't hear, that's what I meant to say. I did not over the years really understand the true reason for the Holocaust. There's never really been a clear, there's really never been a clear cause. And she gave it to me because they black. And it's been whitewashed over the years. They got faded out by mixing with more Europeans and attempting to be accepted into the European culture because of their lack of melanin. And I really I really got a sense of self-esteem reading this. And there was one other thing that they have become so skilled at their genocide and their psychological warfare that and she says right here, now they kill their victims without touching them, without hearing them, without seeing them. This is an excerpt that she, and we have an opportunity to retaliate psychologically, and that's what we're doing here.
Thanks for sharing. I definitely agree.
Yeah, like that little excerpt you read, Ben. It goes on to continue that like the ability to kill people is so sophisticated, and the means to do it involves so many different people that like the morale is like pretty much non-existent because it takes like a bunch of people to drop bombs and destroy people. So this is a very dangerous system that we are currently subjected to. And yeah, anyone who reads this book, who got like to this chapter, who should like definitely be like concerned about the state of Black people who like seem to just be having a good old time in this white supremacist structure.
Very dangerous. I 100% agree with that. It's like being sucked in. It's like being lured. It's like being lured into a trap. You know.
Definitely, like being lured into a trap. Um, did anyone uh, note down things they wanted to read from chapter 25?
Definitely several. How about you? What was your first? What did you first record?
Um, well, I like the opening a lot, and I wanted to just get that into the archives by reading it. Medicine, if it means anything at all, means to ascertain the fundamental rock bottom causation of disease. Ultimately, the fundamental cause of a given disease determines what must be done about it. Otherwise, one is treating various symptoms of a disease. I'm sorry, I have to read this on my oh, hold on, I can read it here. Otherwise, one is treating various symptoms of disease. Sometimes a disease may be a symptom of something else. AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, is recognized as a disease, but AIDS also may be a symptom of yet another disease, which must be determined. In relationship to the present epidemic slash pandemic caused by the AIDS virus, four questions must be raised and answered if at all possible. One, could a government specific power entity cause such a phenomenon as the present AIDS epidemic slash pandemic, in which 75 plus million deaths have been projected? Would any government cause such a phenomenon and why? Are there any precedents of a government causing such massive levels of death? If indeed there is a precedent, what are the parallels between that precedent and the AIDS phenomenon? So I think these are really interesting questions. I want to go through all of them and answer them all one by one. So the first question I asked the group, and I'll read the question, then I'll answer it myself, and then those who want to answer can answer it themselves. The first question:
Okay.
could a government, a specific power entity, cause such a phenomenon as the present AIDS epidemic slash pandemic? Uh, let's start by saying yes. I think a government can cause a pandemic or an epidemic that's related to like a disease. For example, right now we have this thing called COVID-19. We have the coronavirus, and I'm only gonna speak what I know to be true, and I'm not sure what COVID-19 is or how it manifested, but I do know that it is part of an agenda to push, to push the refinement of white supremacy, to push us, closer to the agenda of white supremacy being more powerful and more, covert, keeping us isolated in our homes, and all these things are like just ways to further the refinement of racism, white supremacy. Are people actually dying from it? Yes, of course, because it's something that it's another biological weapon. It didn't manifest out of thin air, nor do I believe that it manifested from an animal. I do believe that this is a patented disease slash biological weapon. And you guys want to answer the question? And like, I don't know how many people have been have many people have been affected or died from it, but I know that a lot of people have been, you know, I know the numbers a lot. I know it's a lot. A lot of people have died all across the world, and it's the most talked about disease at the moment. It got more airtime than Ebola, that's for sure, because it's actually changing how we live our lives. You know, put your mask on when you come in the store.
Yeah, you're totally right. I agree that the government does have some control of our pandemic. I believe it's for the purposes of fear-based control. How else do you control the people but by letting them, but making them think they're gonna die, or making them think that they're going to diagnose you with something that will make you like you can't be around people, or what, whatever reason it is, people are afraid to be labeled with anything that's like a death stamp. And Ebola, AIDS, COVID now, they're all death stamps that the government has used to control people's actions, movements, and future plans. And yeah, how do we plan for the foreseeable future if we each day a new tier is introduced to restrict, like I would say, small businesses now, if anything, the biological warfare is now being used to stop the economic growth of certain communities, especially now that we're all wising up and trying to circulate the black pound. The small businesses are suffering the most with the easy shutdowns that's been put in place. And that's how I'll just answer that question, and then I'll let someone else go.
Well said, Trey and Mary. To answer the question, yes, I believe history tells me that if the whites can use smallpox contaminated blankets to kill the natives, they could use, like, I believe that technology has only intensified and improved. So yes, I believe they can manufacture and deploy biological weapons, be it disease, be it poisoning through water or food. Always be suspicious of what they're capable of.
So we're just gonna do one of these at a time, right? One question at a time.
Yep.
All right. Yes. Hell yeah. They've proven it. You should have seen those. Those scientists in the Congo during the reign of terror of King Leopold. That was the premier scientific laboratory on human beings in the Congo. We have no idea what kind of epidemics and outbreaks
Speaking of
they
my finger,
cause.
Lord.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the fucking
Thank you, love.
job.
Just interrupted Ben's thought, I believe.
No, I was done. I was just saying that's their job. That's their purpose on this planet. They're a fucking virus and they're here to kill everybody and control everything. That's what I think. I think they know they're a virus. They are a virus. So they want to create all these other viruses to kill everybody else off.
Sounds about white. Sounds about white. So, question number 2. Would any government cause such a phenomenon? So we already said yes. A lot of people answered yes. Why? Why would they do this? To me, population control. I think one of the reasons that COVID-19 exists is to kill as many Black and brown people as possible. I mean, to kill as many Black people as possible. Like the whole brown thing, I'm not sure. I don't have the information. I know they want to kill Black people. I know that for sure, for certainty. Why do you guys think the government would do such a phenomenon?
I believe in my first answer, I answered that. So just to bullet point, control through fear-based control, reduction of controlling of finances and wealth, and disruption of building future plans amongst organizing amongst the demographics, especially Black people, and to further experiment in this time. What are we going to do? What are we willing to accept? I feel like this first 2020, especially when it first started out, the first lockdown was very much an experiment. Oh, so they come out when the sun's out. They don't listen to the rules at this point. They listen to the rules at this point. Yeah, it's all experimental, as well as control of finances and controlling our plans, our future plans, or creating disharmony in the planning of our future plans.
Very well put. And just to add on to that a little bit, to really strategically and masterfully promote mental illness and create and promote and perpetuate mental illness to an extent to where it is so effective that this so-called Black on Black crime, Black on Black violence is actually, I referred to it earlier as an epidemic. It's a disease. And why? All of it, all of this is for the purpose of exploiting everything and everybody. Their whole purpose in existence is to exploit. If they get you sick and scared and tired and worried about a roof over your head and some medicine and just some clothes on your back and the basic survival needs, that's no different than what the animals do every day. They hunt, they eat, to get some food. If all we're concerned about is survival, then when do we have time to create a supercomputer? When do we have time to create a harmony and peace and societies of that apply healthy natural science to life? How can we become human? So it's amazing how, Frances Welsing has really crystallized their inhumaneness and their attempt to make everybody else subhuman, when the reality is, hey, they're the inhuman ones. So that's the why. And yeah, they brought those Nazis over here after World War II for that reason. They brought those Nazis over here on first class flights after World War II and employed them by the military for this reason right here: population control, mind control. At the end of the day, it's all for the purpose of exploiting resources, human resources, physical resources. That's my answer.
Well said, Ben. I feel like Mary, Ben, those answers are sufficient enough for me to not have to say anything. Oh, but I do want to say what you said earlier about white people being a virus. It reminds me of this quote I heard from this white person in a video game called The Witcher 3, and he says mankind is a plague, a virus, and there's no black people in that game, and the ISIS papers understands us to understand mankind as equaling white, so very interesting that you say that, Ben.
Question number 3: are there any precedents of a government causing such massive levels of death? Yes, the Holocaust. Just not even the Holocaust. Let's go back to King Leopold killing 15 million Africans themselves. Let's go back to the transatlantic slave trade, where you have Portugal and you have later the Americas and British colonies. Killing how many? Yeah, a million per ship. Who knows? Who knows how many of our ancestors were slaughtered and killed? And who knows how many of those black men from the Tuskegee experiments had their children affected by those experiments. So this goes on and on. So there's so many incidences of white supremacy leading biologically utilizing biological warfare. And if anyone wants to answer, please go for it. But the question was, are there any precedents of a government causing such massive levels of death? So has this happened before?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You hit the nail on the head with half of the ones that you mentioned. But if we're gonna mention the million ways that white supremacy has tried its best to maintain and prevail and spread itself like a true parasite to the Tasmanian Islands, this eradicating a whole people, a whole origin of history that not many can talk about today, and that's saying a lot. Australians being first the original Aboriginals that they encountered, giving them alcohol. Just the same tactics, like you said, smallpox. I'm sure that was mentioned before about the Americas, but yeah, I'm sure there's more white atrocities to be called out by throughout history. But I'll leave you guys to the rest.
That's all I was gonna say. The indigenous
But that's
population of America.
that's totally fair. Um, let's get in. Yeah, let's keep going forward. I believe. Mary, did you have anything you wanted to read from the chapter?
I'm just looking at where my notes start, and I believe it's a little bit further down. So just in case anybody has anything further,
Well, there's one
yeah.
more. Number 4 is, if indeed there is a precedent, what are the parallels between the precedent and the present AIDS phenomenon? I thought that's the reason you had to read those. To make
Oh,
it, because I
go
think
Oh,
what's
for it.
important about what we're doing, I think what's important about what we're doing is, how does all of this, what happened generationally and in the past and in our history up leading up to now, how does that affect our relationships with each other? That's something important too. And I think this question, what are the parallels between the precedent and the present AIDS phenomenon? How is that affecting us now? Well, we can apply it to COVID now, right?
Definitely. So yeah. If indeed there is a president, which there is, are there parallels between that president and the present AIDS phenomenon? So it went from AIDS to Ebola to coronavirus to syphilis. There's been so many attacks against the black genetic coding. I think diseases are just created to attack our DNA. Now we have to deal with constant stress and the ongoing reality of diabetes affecting us. So there's just so much. So there are so many parallels that we could examine in our current times, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. And like, we still have white supremacists going around country to country, giving millions of vaccinations that have proven to sterile. I know we need to say it that way. Just look at ICE and then performing hysterectomies on women is a sign of much of Dr.Frances Cress Welsings writing being true, very true. And it's only going to intensify. Yurugu teaches us that they want to have a technological order and rule, so they're gonna use technology forever to dominate until we solve this problem. So what that means is that expect like nanobots to be able to go inside your body and track you, record you, and collect data from you. Expect nanobots to even be able to go into your ear canal and maybe extract like thoughts from your body. Expect white supremacists to be attempting to develop such weapons because this is what they're all about: power and control. And if they can find a way to develop technologies to, like just like they made the slave, the black male, black woman, the black female, just how they made a human body a piece of technology, being the slave, they will continue to do that, whether that's being developing new ways to do it. That's it.
I totally agree. And man, I think the
Well, yeah. One more thing. I should say, like, yeah. I should say, look to like sci-fi, look to movies to see what the white supremacists have planned because they put a lot of it in that area of people activity.
I was gonna say, have you ever seen Black Mirrors? They're showing some of those things. That series Black Mirrors.
Yeah, I love Black Mirror.
Yeah.
I love. It's not exaggerated at all. It's all things that are coming into effect. Like the one that scares me in particular is the little. Is it the little flies or the little ants? That one really gets to me because I don't know if that's already the
The
case or if
bees.
that's, yeah, the bees. It's even the bees. Save the bees while we're at it.
Yeah, that's what Swall was referring to. Those type, and they would fly into your ear canal. And what I forgot, what would they do to your brain? I forgot, but they were sending them out, and they would get control of you or something like that. Just what you
your
were
head
talking about.
explode or something? I don't know. I don't remember, but I feel like they made your head explode.
Okay.
They cause excruciating pain that major when they kill yourself. But that's besides the point. The white supremacists are developing weapons. Like for a real example, drone. Just the idea, just the reality of drone strikes, where like we send a computer, we tell a computer to tell another computer to go drop a bomb. And this is where we're at now.
Agreed. Agreed.
I'd say that question is that's something that's going to take it's more for me. I need more processing. I can't answer that question at this time. I'm best to listen to everybody's points on that question.
I think we're done answering the question. Anyway, everyone who contributed. So yeah. So, but this chapter was a lot about biological warfare and how the Nazis utilized biological warfare when Adolf Hitler had successfully convinced Germany to annihilate roughly 6 million Semites. And let's just understand that the Jews were only eliminated because of their proximity to blackness. They were quoted as to being a threat to the white supremacists' way of being, and in this case, just being alive. Hitler thought that they were subhumans and that they were viruses basically, because he even called them viruses. On page 297, she even says Hitler and his followers referred to the Semites as Tiermensch, the German word for subhuman, Amongst other horrendous accusations, Hitler accused him of carrying and causing diseases. Indeed, he referred to the Semites as being viruses. So it's interesting how white supremacy will call people viruses and diseases while they make viruses and diseases to kill people. And it's such an interesting it's like double action, double speak, where like they're saying you're this. Meanwhile, they're actually doing the things that they're accusing you of. It's, it's quite interesting. I feel like white supremacy is always telling on itself. Always telling on itself.
Yeah, it's
Someone was gonna say
yeah,
something.
very hypocritical. I think that yeah, like, white supremacy, like if this ISIS papers teaches us anything and Urugu teaching us anything, is that the system is very hypocritical, very hypocritical, and that's a part of the I believe insane training it gives its subjects, which is why very few question and like analyze the system to the depth upon which Frances Welsing has for us.
Yep.
You just really brought a good point to mind, Swab. You know, and Trey, your comments, both of you, the ultimate gaslighting. It's important for us to understand the definition of gaslighting. You know, doing something to you and then accusing you of doing it to me. That's just that's just one example. You know, calling you a savage when I'm the savage. Um, Calling you inadequate and insufficient because I'm insufficient. So now we have to look at everything they say, everything they do, all of the thought processes that they promote. We have to turn it around opposite. It's almost like we're living in everything is the opposite of the truth. We're completely turned backwards, and the truth is on its head. It's, we're living under total deception, the matrix. And also,
Well said.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow, man, literally, that's how the system is run: deceit and confusion. Like, I cannot say it any better than that.
Very true. Deceit, confusion, manipulation, hiding your tracks quite well. Um, I just want to continue.
And hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, it's going to definitely another element of it is hiding in plain sight.
My father used to always say they create confusion to cover up their corruption.
Your father was correct. Your father was correct in his articulation of that. So,
Yeah.
white supremacy will always attack black. White supremacy will always be aggressing upon black. That's why chess is the way it is, because chess is a microcosm of our society where black is supposed to be in defense, but if you don't know how to play chess, you won't be in defense. You just get murked by the person who's playing the white side of the board. And I just want to read from chapter 296. The word Semite is derived from the Latin pretext semi, which means half. Semites were the products of the genetic mixture produced when white Greek and Roman soldiers invaded Africa and raped African women who, of course, were black. Semite means the same as a mulatto. Thus, they were considered to be half black and half white, are colored people. Thus, a yellow colored star was placed on their outer clothing by the German government in the Hitler era. The term anti-Semitic and anti-Semitism most fundamentally referred to a destructive ideological, psychological, and behavioral state of anti-color waged by people who classify themselves as white against those who are classified as non-white, even when those non-whites have lost much of their skin coloration in some instances. I'm going to continue reading from the second the page after this one. Hitler became Hitler because he tapped into the deepest fear, was able to have support and sympathy of the masses of other people who, like himself, classified themselves as white then and now. They understood Hitler's call at conscious as well as a deep subconscious level for white genetic survival. This is the perceived threat that Semites of the Jewish religion residing in Europe represented to Germans and other Europeans, whites. I already read that last bit, but Hitler was able to rally the masses because they all share that same fear that we keep hearing about. I feared for my life. I feared for my life. I thought I was in danger. Whites inherently do have a fear of color. Um, for whatever the reason is, when they see color, they are the fact that their genetically recessive traits can be wiped out by our dominant traits. That possibility rings in their hearts and their minds, and they that reality manifests in a lot of ways. For example, they'll see black men who are holding a wallet. They'll see their wallet as a gun. And I don't even think that's true. I just think they see a black male and they see him holding anything. He's just holding his dick, and that the penis is the weapon. The melanin creating phallus, that is the real weapon. So Hitler was able to convince the whole Nazi German country to start practicing what they were preaching, start killing these Jews. Nothing they did for roughly 5 to 6 years during World War II with the internment camps and the experiments. And when World War II ended, these Nazis were like, there was a hot drive to adopt these Nazi generals and these Nazi doctors and bring them to America to have them work on similar projects that would sustain the white race through annihilating melanated people. So yeah, anyone wanna chime in on this? I know I'm focusing a lot on the Adolf Hitler, but I think that this is textbook racism, white supremacy. You have a country during World War One that's in a major decline. The economy's doing bad, people are doing bad, and they are easily rallied upon the other, so they can rally against the other quite easily. So when that situation is brewing, then things like the Holocaust are possible. Therefore, that's possible right now because I'm online quite a bit, and it's quite scary what white people have evolved to think about black people. For example, white people are really thinking Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization. People think I don't. First of all, let me just set the record straight. I don't support Black Lives Matter. I don't believe in the Black Lives Matter war cry, whatever. It's not a war cry. I don't believe in that chant. I don't think that's constructive, nor do I think it's beneficial to Black people. So that's just what I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's you're well entitled to think that, and what you said, that was well said. Your explanation of what you just read. I would say for my intake for Adolf Hitler is, to be honest, I can't stand the praise that he gets. I can't stand the praise of the way they talk about his articulation and his charm and his ability to get so many people to do what he did. But the only reason why it was possible is because, one, they were learning from the American treatment of Black people. And two, the fact that he played on the fears, like, what did I write? Hitler spoke to the fear of the, yeah, which is a common theme. He just spoke to the fear of their inadequacy, and that was enough to rally them to rally them going. That I feel like we need to take heed and speak to the things that like we love to say, oh, the white, like, you know, that we have famous speeches of the white man this, the white man that, and but like, if we direct it at the government and at particular places, then we could be outside those doors rather than aimlessly being outside of empty parliament buildings where they've gone on holiday or they're not about. We need to seek them by address and then send them hate mail, like, not even hate mail, send them constructive information, but to the point that things get moving and shaking. Like, we need to just speak to the fear and activate in that way, because that's exactly what Hitler done to control thousands and millions of people. In the UK, 1970, the same method was done by Enoch Powell. I would say the same as whatever a Republican is in the UK, synonymous to that over here is the right, the right-sided party, and they gave a speech talking about how there will be rivers of blood in the future if they allow immigrants and Black people to move in. How they will take all your jobs, they will take everything that you have worked so hard to build, and that was their answer, rather than paying a decent wage to the working class. And then what did they do? As soon as Enoch Powell was, of course, taken down for his negative comments, like, you know, as if to say that they really cared, he rallied over like weeks worth of rioting, a week's worth of not going into work, protesting, all in the name of sending black people back home, because he spoke to their fear and he angled it that way rather than allowing the working class to deal with it under, we're not getting paid efficiently. He was like, what can we use? We can use the Black people moving in that they've asked and sent for the help, and we can put them against each other. And yeah, so constantly speaking to fear.
Yep. Speaking of what Mary was talking about, that fear, this is definitely a very, very important tool. And I want to read this from page 298. And thus, in Hitler's pattern of perception and logic, the white supremacy mindset, he planned for the extermination of the Semites as a final solution to the problem of white genetic survival by getting rid of the source of white genetic annihilation. Through a monstrous pattern of lying and deceit, promoting the big lie through a very sophisticated government propaganda apparatus, it was propagated that the Semites were the source of all the problems that threatened the Germans and European people. Thus, mass level destruction was planned against the Semites. This process was participated in by all levels of the German and European societies. Adolf Hitler's leadership of Germany from 1933 to 1945 and the war against the Semites has become the standard for the ultimate conduct of governmental and state white supremacy. In 1932, the year before Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany, in Tuskegee, Alabama, USA, another destruction was being conducted against people who were classified as non-white by people who classified themselves as white doctors, scientists, and government officials. This planned destruction was the Tuskegee syphilis study. From 1932 to 1979, a total of 40 years, United States Public Health, Macomb County Health Department, Tuskegee Institute, Veterans Hospital in Tuskegee, and private physicians in and around Macomb County deliberately planned to withhold treatment from more than 400 Black men who were suffering from syphilis. It was verbalized that the program would be a means for getting rid of the Black people in the U.S. This destructive deception recently ended under pressure in the year 1972. Very shortly after, which we now refer to as AIDS, began to surface in the U.S. The populations focused upon as being infected with AIDS were first the white male homosexuals and subsequently Black and Hispanic people. More specifically, the projected source of the virus was/is to be said to be African people who have been bitten by an African green monkey or the velvet monkey. I read this bit just to kind of not to guide us towards the point where we're talking about biological weaponry against Black people. So I've heard about the Tuskegee experiment. I mean, the Tuskegee syphilis study. I do need to do more research, but again, it's a prime example of biological warfare. Syphilis is a disease that directly affects your ability to have sex. It affects the strength of your private areas, your penis, and your vagina as well. And it's a very uncomfortable disease, and this is something that was given to it says 400 Black men, but I feel like it was given to thousands of men over the course of 40 years. I think it's just 4 decades, because 10 years is a decade, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And after that, you have AIDS. So after they were done playing with that toy of destruction, they moved on to AIDS, and they said that it was created via being bitten by a monkey or eating a monkey. It's just all these false. It's not true. They're lies. I'm pretty sure they're lies, and that can be found in a book titled "A Survey of Chemical and Biological Warfare," which is also quoted in this book. And I was going to read the quote, and then we can discuss a bit about it. In 1969, a book entitled "A Survey of Chemical and Biological Warfare" by John Cookson and Judith Nottingham was published by the Monthly Review Press. The book is described on its cover as follows: derived from a 3-year study conducted by a British biochemist and geneticist and a British political scientist. The text affords a comprehensive review of materials used and policies adopted by authorities in the U.S., Canada, Great Britain, and West Germany. It also